My baby, how sweet love. When the wind blows, the gale will stop. When you look into the mirror, what do you see? I'm a part of you, and you are part of me. Have no fear, because the boogeyman is here. Everybody needs a little heart.
Hi, my name is Susan Baccarini. I did the opening sequence in Jaws. I was Chrissy Watkins. Of course, I didn't live very long in the film. I was gone in the first 3 minutes. But I hope it was an opening scene that everybody really likes. I've done a lot of horror things because I was an animal trainer and I died by everything. I've died by birds, by bears, by cats, by everything. So I'm one of those they get rid of right away. I die.
I mean, when you're threading water, you can't see underneath. So it's that sense that always something's going to happen. I always liked horror movies. My mother got me into horror movies, and I was never afraid. And I owned the harpoon gun for Jaws since I was 5 years old. So I was never afraid of. I've never had a fear of horror movies or anything. That's the scary thing. You can't win against somebody that's not afraid. Doesn't care if they lose or win.
What they did was, to do the actual attack scene, is there were pilings about 500 yards off the beach, and they ran cables from the beach all the way to the pilings, and then put me in between the pilings. And they had cables attached to my hips and to my stomach. And I had gone and bought all kinds of special quick releases, so if I got in trouble out there, I could get out of the situation by hitting a release, because nobody would have known if I was hurt. I'm out there screaming anyway, so nobody would have known, and I needed to be able to get out of the situation by myself. The whole thing went fine. Spielberg said to me when I met him, I want the people to be under the seats with the popcorn and bubble gum when you finish your scene. And that was his statement to me. I live on a boat, and I go to sea probably 2 weeks out of every month. And just about 3 months ago, we got caught in a really bad storm where you couldn't leave the anchorage. It was way out, it was windy, they had 14-foot seas, and there were 5-foot seas coming into the anchorage. That scared me because there was no place else we could go.
I'm not really afraid of anything. I work at haunted houses, so I work on scaring other people. I developed my style mostly from probably vampire movies, and I'm generally a clown in different horror things that I do. So, and I do special effects makeup, so that definitely helps with my style.
It's very cathartic to watch things. Horror films at their best kind of channel our universal fears or even individual personal fears through a lens that's easier to focus on, in a way that if it was done in a drama or a comedy is much too blunt force, where if it's done with like monsters or slashers or serial killers or supernatural, we can focus on things of fears of death, loss, rejection.
All of these mysteries, whether we're talking about ghosts or monsters, UFOs, or just general fear and urban legends, tap into a really primal part of who we are, and it gets us asking big questions like, what happens after we die? Are we alone in the universe? Do we know every creature that walks the earth with us? Those are the questions that keep us up at night, and they keep me up at night. And so that's what I'm exploring with everything that I do. The unknown is something to be feared, of course, because you don't know what the outcome's going to be, and that's always a scary thing. So many ghost experiences that I've documented over the years, people are afraid. Not that the situation is scary, not that they feel threatened or someone's trying to hurt them, but something doesn't belong in the environment, and they're afraid of that. It's a natural, normal, consequence of the situation. If you wake up in your house at night and you hear someone walking around downstairs, you're going to be scared. You should be scared. You should call the police for sure. And the police get there and see no one's there, and that gets even worse, right? I have an intruder that I can't call the cops. I can't do anything. This thing is just there, and what do I do? Fear raises our adrenaline. Adrenaline courses through us and gets us ready for fight or flight, and it also affects our brains. It hits the hippocampus region of the brain, right near the adrenal gland, and that stores long-term memories. So when you're afraid, you remember. You remember for your whole life, and that's we're built to do that. The fear serves us in every way. They shape who we are. You know, our childhood fears go a long way into forming us as adults. You know, if you're afraid of water, if you get tossed into some lake as a kid, you know, and you're afraid of water the rest of your life, I mean, that's deep-seated stuff. You know, those fears that get ingrained in us when we're kids.
Paranormal is anything that parallels normal. And quite frankly, is this world really normal? No. So if we go back to the dictionary term, this whole world is paranormal. But people like to go to the genre of, let's say, ghosts and spirits when they're talking paranormal because of the television shows. But it includes so many different facets. It includes cryptozoology, it includes UFOs, spirit communication, not just the scientific equipment going to look for the paranormal. You do get startled when someone's behind a door and goes boo at you like that, but I would have to say fear lies in people that can hurt you, people that are evil. I mean, dogs that bite. I mean, those are the things that scare people.
We just want to get this right. They're not going to talk much right now, okay, just so you know that. And so ask away, ask whatever question you would like.
What type of things are you afraid of? Like
you with that camera. You get closer, we have a problem.
Do you have any favorite scary movies?
Do I have any favorite scary movies? Have you been in any? Oh, because if that was the case, that would be the one.
What's the business like for you know, puppets and like what's it been like?
First of all, I'm not a puppet. Okay, if I was a puppet, I'd be in politics. Okay, I'm a fabricated American, and let's get this correct. All right, just letting you know, this is how this works. Okay, all right. So, and you asked me how's the business side? Give me $10 and I'll tell you.
I think everybody loved Bewitched because they like the magic aspects of it. I don't really think of it as a horror show, but it ties in with TerrorCon, magic and terror. It's kind of frightening, right? Obviously Bewitched is tied into this area because the Salem witch trials, and we did a thing a few years ago where TV Land has a Bewitched statue. They unveiled a Samantha statue and I was there for that. So it's right there in the heart of Salem. And I think with Bewitched they took something that could have been really dark and they turned it into a comedy. So I think it's lighthearted. I think Bewitched is one of the few shows where we filmed it in the 60s and 70s. It's been on the air continuously since. I think there have been a lot of magical shows since, like Charmed and so many things like that. And it's funny because when I was in Salem a few years ago, people who are really witches came up to me and thought that, wow, we're both witches. I'm like, well, I just played one on TV. I tend to live my life fearless. I don't want to be afraid of anything. So I kind of throw myself out there. I'm kind of an adventure seeker. That's why a couple years ago I did a show called Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling. And I mean, at the end I was throwing myself off the turnbuckle. I fought Dustin Diamond and Dennis Rodman was my tag team partner. So I mean, I think life is more fun if you live without fear. So that's what I try to do. Don't try to scare me.
People have their own affinity with the Addams Family. It's been a love affair for 50 years or so now, and it seems like it's still going strong. And every character in the Addams Family means something, and people identify with one of the characters of the Addams Family. So I always felt like it was a real honor to be allowed to represent that icon of American culture.
The Addams Family was a very, very good show to work with. Well, I got to work with a lot of nice people. They never had any dirty word. Everything was clean, like family-wise, compared to these days. I mean, everything you see on the screen is like, you know, half a word here and passing over there. I don't like that. Before the 60s, husband and wife, they weren't even allowed to sleep in the same bed to show the public. Really. My fear is I don't like snakes. I cannot stand snakes. In my life, I never touched a snake. And I never will either. So many years ago, when I lived in California, I was working. I got a call from an agent, and she said, "Oh, they want you to do the job of holding a snake around your neck." I said, "What? So repeat that again." So you said snake? Yeah. They want you. I said, "I don't think they have enough money to pay me for me to hold the snake. I don't like snakes." Okay, so I didn't get the job. Also, I'm not a swimmer. And when I did the movie Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom, I got stuck under a raft in the river. And I don't swim. So 6 months after that, almost every night, I used to have nightmares. What it really hurts, it would be terrible if you lose your eyesight. You know, while you've been around for so many years, and you get to see everything, and all of a sudden you become blind. There would be a fear because all of a sudden you lost something, and then everything is blocked in front of you. You can't see anything anymore. That would be the worst fear.
I actually don't like scary movies. I'm not really a big fear guy. I mean, I like thrillers, and I have seen scary movies, but I'm not really into the Saw and Hostel and all that kind of stuff. Where just blood and guts, slasher movies. Although some of my friends are in all of comedy, I like to laugh. And the Munsters was just a show, it was a job. I had no idea it would evolve into a 50-year career of being Eddie Munster. But it's funny. It's just part of entertainment. Entertainment is entertainment. I happened to have been on a show that was based on the Universal monsters that showed comedy. But at the same time, I really enjoyed the old monster movies, the Frankensteins, the Draculas, the Wolfmans. I think that genre is really an interesting time to be viewing movies. And not only was it not early days of the movies, but somewhat early. But the black and white motif, it was really cool.
At that time, I mean, we were a functional family. We were a little different, a little weird, but and I think that's what made it work and what's made it timeless is because it's kind of a family show. And I know a lot of people say, well, they only let their children watch the shows from the 60s because, they're different than now. Kind of portraying dysfunctional families now as normal.
We always ate dinner together. We always had family values, and there was always a lesson to be learned. It was very much a social commentary from the 60s. It was like you didn't want to live next door to the Munsters, but once you got to know them, they were okay, so it wasn't like judge a book by its cover. It was done by the people that Leave It to Beaver for 6 or 7 years, so they had a lot of the... I mean, I used to make jokes that it could have been Ward Munster or Herman Cleaver, could have been interchangeable father figures, that Herman, once Fred Gwynne started speaking, Herman Munster was not Frankenstein. He became the lovable father figure to the family. He went to work every day, he came home, we had dinner we always had dinner together. A very strong family value show.
I have never thought of us as being in a fear culture because Uncle Herman was so big and lovable, and to parents letting their children watch it wasn't scary. As a child, I was never allowed to go to any horror shows. I never saw horror films. I never saw Frankenstein, any of those things. I was never allowed to. So now, and of course, as a result of that, I was never afraid of the dark, never afraid of being alone, because I didn't have any fears. I know now, I still can't go to them. I don't have a mother telling me I can't, but I still can't because they really scare me. I can't watch them, even on television. I turned on this. My granddaughter was living with me and watching The Walking Dead, so I turned on the TV to see what she was watching. Oh my word! I just said, "Oh, I can't watch anything like this." 10 minutes. I mean, it just scared me to death.
For me, I didn't even know what The Walking Dead was, and that's just being honest. And as far as I came in third season, I didn't watch any episodes until my fourth episode being on the show. I didn't go back and watch season 1 and 2 until then. I think it's great what they're doing. I mean, because it's so realistic. I mean, when it gets to a point that people are really believing, like, what would I do if this happens? Then you know they're doing something big. But to people on TV land, it's not going to happen. And if it does, just run. They're pretty slow. I didn't realize what I was a part of until I kept looking at my Twitter page. And what I mean by that, I kept seeing I'm getting more and more and more and more followers. And then I'll start asking questions about the show, and then I started the whole the magazines and all that other stuff. I never knew, but now that I know, I feel honored to be part of something. Be part of something that's great, that people will love for years, that people love to be scared. Even though the zombies, I mean, the walkers, they're so slow, it's like if they catch you, you deserve to get caught. People just like to be caught off guard. They like to get caught off guard, but in the same breath, they like to laugh afterwards, like, oh, he got me. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Which is sort of cool, though, you know? It's sort of cool to be scared for a second and then laugh about, why am I being scared? That's on TV. Or why am I being scared? That's not real. But we be scared of stuff that's not real. And it's fun. And we've always been like this since Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers. Growing up, I was a basketball star. But I had all scary movie posters in my room. I didn't have Michael Jordan. I didn't have Dominique, Hakeem Olajuwon. I had Freddie. I had Chucky. I had Michael. My thing was Amityville Horror. I would love to do a remake of the Amityville Horror. Sometimes I wish I was like the bad guy, because it seemed like the people love the bad guy. Because I'm 6'4", 250. I would love to play Jason. I would love to play Halloween. They can cover my hands and face, you know, or make a remake of Candyman. You know, so I'm willing. If somebody has a script out there, I'm ready to play it. The guy, the boogeyman down there from WWF, he should have had a movie, man. That dude is scary looking, and he's scary. I would be more afraid of him than a zombie, because he's in shape and he can run.
I'm coming for you. 3, 4, lock your door. Yeah. I'm the boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you.
Well, I was a big fan of horror movies, of course, the classics. You can't beat on the universal classics. And one of the things, being in the monster world and doing puppets and whatever, I started writing this show called Monster TV. And Sarah Karloff, Boris's daughter, and I were playing around, and I wanted to bring more younger audience to know about the classics and the people behind this. Florrie Ackerman and I knew Florrie when I started in the business, and being a monster kid, you know, and having all the monster friends, I just figured that it was a great way of teaching new kids and new audiences about the makeup artists, the special effects people, the people behind the scenes, the families. Okay, so Monster TV developed based on showing these guys having their television studio and bringing all the folks into the world and getting to know all the cool people behind outside of a convention. So all our fan base, all our celebrity guests, so hang out with the monsters here, and they have their own television network. So that was a way of bringing new audiences to look behind the scenes. We kind of let them show that they still have an imagination. There's a sympathetic side to these creatures, okay, which is something that the Cheneys did, Lon Chaney Sr. or Lon Chaney Jr. Boris, the older actors put that sympathy in there. And one of the things, even though that there are all kinds of zombie films and gore films or whatever, slasher films and that type of thing, there's still a basis of the fear factor. Everybody likes being afraid or whatever. So this is a way that if there's new audiences going to that, they understand the magic behind the films and how these things happen. That it's not really real, and it's an extension of a story. Because television and movies is about good storytelling. And that's really what we try to do, is try to get you behind the scenes and see where all these good stories come from. So now you have digital in there, and as long as the story's always good, digital or practical effects will always work. It's an art that I don't think will ever go away. I think it's not necessarily been replaced. Hopefully it was enhanced. For a while there in the 90s, we kind of really worried about, okay, it's going to go away. But I think people have felt the digital, and they say, we know what's digital and what's not. And they still want that tangible thing. You know, the luxury about these characters is that digital can't replace this live element. Okay, there's nothing that interaction that Gorgo or any of these characters will do cannot ever be replaced. It can be replaced maybe on film, but it can't be replaced live. I could bring anyone to sit down with these guys and they come alive, and you're not going to have that same rapport as you would digital.
I don't concentrate on fear. I concentrate on inadequacies, insecurities, crooks, thieves, bad people. I mean, fear is relative to different people, you know. I have no fear because I feel that I'm invincible, like most jocks always feel. You know, I'm a martial artist, so I feel I'm bulletproof. So all those things, whether or not they're real or unreal, it's a reality about how we feel about ourselves and how we relate to other people. I can't really say the time I ever came close to fear was when I knew there was no fear in me, when I got hit by a guy that was about twice the size of me in grade school. And I got up. Now, if a guy hit me that hard, I'm not supposed to get up. But I got up, and I knew that he was in trouble, because my whole rest of my football experience was to get him. And I finally got him in the 9th grade.
We all love adrenaline. Everyone gets up for adrenaline, and that's just the way it is. So we love stuff like that. Superheroes, look at what's happened with the X-Men and Marvel and all that stuff. They really have hyped it up. But you know, Fred and I were talking, and we would like to see a little return to actually people doing their own stunts without computer graphics, if it's potentially possible. You know, I don't even know if that's going to happen, but you know, it sort of takes a lot of the ability out, because I'm a trained fighter and I could do a lot of things, but now they have like Angela Jolie kicking people attached to strings and stuff, that it makes my ability look like nothing, you know what I mean? So it's interesting what's happened.
What scares me? Well, if I eat too much ice cream, I'm lactose intolerant. Even I don't like to be in the same room with me. That scares me. If I drink eggnog, the pain that I get in my stomach, that scares me. Any woman who appears to be way too nice in the beginning, that scares me. Any woman who wants to make love to you too fast, that scares me. Now here's the true horror story. In relationships nowadays, you gotta come with some money. You gotta come with a bank. Because realistically, man or woman, what you have to do is you gotta say, okay, before I even kiss you, what you got? Because if I don't like you, I'm taking half. That's a horror story. A man or a woman falls for somebody because they love them. Okay? What scares me? What scares me is the fact that I can fall for somebody and she may not be who she says she is, or you can fall for somebody and he or she may not be who you think they. Move in with me, baby. You move in with him or her. Him or her, or he or she, you know what I'm trying to say. One of them stops working. Guess what? You gotta pay. That's a horror movie.
My Puerto Rican wife scares me. She scares me. She's 5'2" and she scares me. Besides her, what scares me is what's going on in our world today morally. That scares me. Like what kids are into today, we weren't into. I don't know if you guys recall, but we weren't into the same things. And hearing them talk, there's this whole overtone of gloominess. So I just want to encourage everyone to have hope and to know that things are going to be all right, and to go out there and just treat each other as you'd like to be treated. Without that type of mentality, The world scares me.
I think people like to be uncomfortable. I think that when someone finds peace, they self-destruct, and then they have to watch a horror film. I don't really delve too deep into that. I hate it when actors talk about this and peel back the layers, you know. We don't peel back layers in life. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
What would you say that you're afraid of, you're most afraid of?
Probably being skinned alive. I was on a Ferris wheel once when I was a kid saw my grandparents in New York, and we went to this fair. And so it was just like a rickety-tickety, like those Locarnies, and it was just spinning so fast, and we almost fell out. We had to hold on. I was terrified of that. Because like literally, I'm like, how is this safe for people? Falling from a great height, but not enough to kill you, just enough to give you compound fractures, will always scare you. And then, of course, being skinned alive.
One of the really interesting things about films are people in general love to be scared. They love to genuinely be scared or at least thrilled. Myself, I mean, I'm not a fan myself of gore horror and things like that. To me, that's not scary because all I see is makeup and special effects. What really gets me is a true thriller, you know, one that kind of taps you off, one that makes you feel like it's really happening to you. And you know, I mean, and I think everybody loves it. You know, I mean, that's the reason these kind of movies are still in business.
It was just so believable that it could really happen. You know, somebody being in a mental institute for 15 years and busts out and gets a mask, doesn't want him to be known, and you know, hunting down babysitters. The character was about being alive, but also being dead. You know, both. As far as filming, it was like a, you know, it was a blast. It was an independent movies usually are, and it was very fast because it was so low budget that everything was moving very quickly. We never did more than 3 takes for any scene. I can't believe how huge it became, and I'm completely blessed. I mean, it blows my mind because I figured when we were filming it, maybe a week or 2 in the drive-in, and that'd be about it. You know, I had no clue, and nobody did, that it would blow up. You know, so it's not something I'm like responsible for. So I'm like humbled. You know. And I was broke when I did the movie, so you know, I need the money, you know. And I think fear hits the soul, and whatever different way that happens, it hits the soul for some reason. Like when I first saw The Exorcist, and I was brought up Catholic, I guess. You know, and that was a Catholic-based type of movie, you know. That movie scared the living crap out of me. I mean, and to this day, it still does.
If you're not old enough to have seen The Exorcist in theater, it was such a different experience. You watch The Exorcist on DVD and it's pretty good, but when you saw it in the theaters, it was so incredibly powerful because of the subject matter mainly. 1974, that subject matter was untouched, and there was so much in the news about the movie where people were saying they came out of the theater and they felt possessed, and ambulances were responding to movie theaters to take people out that passed out watching the movie. You were scared to death before you ever went in. So that's why just the sheer power of that at that time, it'll always be my favorite, I think.
So there's some kind of fear that hits from that movie that hits my soul because I have that Catholic upbringing or something, you know, you know, the twisting of the head and the devil and you know, all that stuff. What frightens me? I guess, you know, my kids' health. You know, everything that ever happened to my kids. I'm not really much scared of anything else, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's, as far as real fear. Oh, you know what? Also, I'm definitely scared of heights. I don't know why.
I mean, everyone's fears are different. You know, I'm scared of pretty much everything, you know, but there's some people like Kane Hodder who's scared of absolutely nothing in the world. The only time I've ever seen him scared was we were hand feeding lions and the lion jumped, and, you know, it was the only time I've ever seen him flinch a little. You know, so fear is just this, you know, there's a universal aspect of death and dying and pain. and flying cans. I'm just a wuss in general. I'm a writer who, you know, I stay home. I've traveled the world, but, you know, I'm kind of just, you know, reclusive, and, you know, I think what it is, I've written so many scary things in my own life that I've made myself scared of everything.
Love playing the character. It has afforded me doing things like this. More importantly, because of the notoriety of playing a character like this, I've been able to do a lot of stuff to help other people, particularly burn patients, burn survivors, because I was burned severely back in 1977, so I understand what people are going through. But because of the notoriety, I'm able to go places like Mass General and talk to the people that are in the burn unit. I don't think I would have had that opportunity had it not been for this character. That's nice that people want me to come in here and sign stuff. I never expected that. Wanted to be a working stuntman. Never thought I'd sign an autograph in my life. So I think I maybe appreciate it more than other people that got into this business to become famous. After you do a few of these films, watching the character as a horror fan, you like to see what they're going to come up with next. What's he going to do this time? Where is he going to be? What kind of kills is he going to do? So, because I'm a big horror fan myself, I used to love watching this character before it was me. And, you know, all of a sudden I'm actually wearing the mask of a character I've watched for years. Because I started in part 7, did 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it was, you know, I still feel it was a huge honor to put that mask on, because that was known around the world, and now I'm the guy wearing it. Unbelievable honor, and it'll always feel that way. I don't care what I do from now on, it'll always be a huge high point in my career. After I did part 7, there was about 8 or 9 months before I was hired to do part 8, that I was just known as another one of the guys that did one movie. So I used to sign, and this, I think it'd probably be a pretty rare autograph to keep if you can find it. I used to sign Kane Hodder Jason number 7, because I was the 7th guy to play the character. Until I did part 8, then I didn't sign the number 7 anymore. And, you know, and that was only less than a year later. So then I realized it was going to be a huge part of my life when I did it a second time, because nobody had done that before. So it sounds like I'm trying to be the tough guy and all that stuff, but I really can't think of anything that I'm afraid of. I mean, none of the typical stuff, certainly. You know, the heights and snakes and spiders and all that other stuff. None of that bothers me, because I'm a stuntman also, so you know, you can't really have any of those typical fears. My first year professionally as a stuntman, so I thought I'd do another demonstration of a fire stunt, and it didn't work out the same way this time. So got burned, you know, about 50% of my body, but you know, it's a tough thing. I got a buddy of mine who was here yesterday, Joe Kinnan. He survived Station nightclub fire right here in town. So, you know, I like hanging out with people like him, because we both have the same attitude towards it. It sucks that it happened, but you move on, you enjoy your life, you don't feel sorry for yourself. That's why I like to do whatever I can to help other people, because somebody like that helped me when I was burned.
The culture of fear. It feels really good to be a part of it in the movie industry, and I work very hard diligently to be consciously not a part of it in my real life. I want to make sure there's a distinction there. I think people are attracted to fear as far as movies go, so that they can practice not being so fearful in their lives. It's a way for us to release, you know, what we're doing in our real lives, the fear that we're carrying in our real lives. So we get to go in, just like a kid watching a Disney movie. You know, they've all got a scary character, and the kids can practice then handling their own fear. I love doing fear roles because it gives you so much more to do as an actor. You get to play a big arc. I mean, in a real horror film, I'm not talking about the butcher slasher films. I'm talking about true horror films that take time to develop characters and relationships and, you know, make you become invested in whether you want that person to live. I mean, by the end of Cujo, you know, it was an amazing feat because most of the audience really didn't want to kill that dog. And we don't want to kill dogs. We want to protect our animals. And so by the time the end of Cujo came, we had put you through so much because of the relationship between the mother and the boy that, you know, the dog actually did become a villain. You can't call a slasher film a horror film. And I think there's room for those also, for the people that like them. But, you know, they're not inherently a true horror film at all, because a good horror film takes its time. And you really care about the people. It's not just about, well, hi, here are your 6 characters and watch how brutally we can murder each of them. It's not the same thing. I mean, you watch a classic horror film like Don't Look Now, there's hardly any violence at all in it, but it's so frickin' creepy. You're never going to run away from a monster who's harder to get away from than your own crap. Your own fears, your own judgments, your own limitations. I think we're our greatest creators, and some of us create ourselves really consciously in joy and love, and some of us create ourselves in sickness and victimness.
I don't think we're challenged at all in this society. Not in the way that we had. If you think about back to before societies were formed, or as they were starting to form, you know, you had bears, you had lightning, you had the tree catching on fire from the lightning, you were hiding in a cave, you were trying to figure out what's going on. So then we started to try to create answers to what is happening around us, where did we come from, what is going on, and we desire danger. You know, and so that's why I think we're, in so many ways, we're, as a culture, they're waiting for someone to come bring them that danger. You know, like if someone shows them the inkling, the smallest, like this little bit, you could be in trouble, you're obsessed. I think that we're here, like in a soul sense, we're here to experience the contrast of what is love and joy. You know, like we're the sleep of the soul in the universe in that way. It's a continuum of endless love and joy. And love is not all like frou-frou. Like there's challenge and support. It's both sides of it. So I think that the fear provides that contrast, just so you know how rich your loved one's experience is. Fate is what you make it. You are the captain of your own ship to the degree that you desire to be. The rest of it is unconscious, but it's all still coming from your own mind. It's your own thoughts. I mean, you think about, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. About 50,000 of them on average are negative. So people have a hard time in their lives, or they experience something in their lives. And I don't want this to sound judgmental or preachy, but I definitely think that there's a responsibility that's been taken away. Some of it by choice, because most people don't want to deal with the reality that they're actually in charge of their entire life. They want somebody else that might know more. But nobody really knows more about your situation than you, right? So like, I believe that the only real control that you have is over what you're thinking, you know? So that's the only real, if you lose control of that, that's probably the most terrifying thing, because if your mind starts running wild and you start reacting to everything that happens, like, that can be very terrifying, you know?
Well, horror is really the loss of control and shelter and comfort. Every horror movie really begins at the time when the normal ceases to exist and the abnormal is brought in. That abnormal could be anything from a natural disaster to a guy lurking in the bushes, or an illness from outer space. Basically, when your normal everyday world, that which protects you and shelters you and feeds you, is disrupted, that's ripe territory for horror. I'm terrified of roller coasters. I'm terrified of heights. I'm terrified of Ferris wheels. When it's church carnival time near my house and the Ferris wheel, I could see it in the horizon, my heart starts beating, my palms get sweaty. watching my family die. I think I fear that more so than any sense of mortality on my own.
I don't know how like new agey you want to go here, but I don't believe in fear. I am fearless, and so you know, for me, this is just play acting. That's what I am. I'm an actress. I think it's fun. We're putting on costumes and we're wearing wigs. You know, when a guy just came walking by with like a big like shotgun, and all of a sudden I was like, I don't like that, and yet this is what I do. So I don't know. I don't like to think of myself as like being part of like the fear culture, as much as I like being a part of the sort of whimsical play acting dress up culture. I mean, we all know like crazy people. I might be crazy. Like I think there's something very it's just real. Like there are real crazies right here, right now, in this room that could and maybe should be at Briarcliff. And whereas like, you know, whether or not you believe in ghosts or have ever been to a haunted house or, you know, happen to know a coven of witches, like maybe that's sort of maybe less relatable and something that we don't all kind of fear. My biggest fear growing up was being homeless. I'm the daughter of an architect. If there's anything I was going to have, it was somewhere to live. Homelessness is real. It's something we see every day. It could happen to any of us. So, yeah, I think that's what's scary.
In my work, fear has many elements, many different levels. First of all, I'm trying always to elicit a response from the audience that would be fearful, either that represents the fear of my character or the fear from my character. My biggest fear on a personal level is human abuse, human suffering. I think human suffering scares me. It scares me to see poverty. I'm scared to see emotional distress. I'm scared to see children in duress without love and compassion. So those things are the most fearful things for me. In my faith, I understand there's someplace else, so I don't necessarily have as much fear of dying as of suffering. Physical suffering, I connect with quite a bit in the form of blood. I recognize that blood to me is your lifeline, and it's all the things you've ever had. So as with the loss of blood, it's your first kiss or the home run you hit in Little League or your new car, and you can never put that back in your body. So I relate to that. When I have scenes where I'm dying, it affects me very much when I'm bleeding out, and I realize that's my whole life pooling up on the floor below me that I can't put back in my body, and it affects me emotionally. I find that psychologically, when we're in a place of despair, it's a different side of us that either we don't know or we can't control, and I'm a bit fearful of that. And I think that causes us to go do things that are not necessarily our best selves, or inhumane, if you will, to go out and maim people, kill people, or put them in harm's way. That's the other side of being a victim, is victimizing someone else. Physically, the supernatural stuff, on a personal level, the psychological drama, the horror inside someone's head maybe is more fearful to me than Alien or Predator, let's say, which would be a little more fantasy or supernatural. I actually feel the popular cultural phenomena of The Walking Dead, which by the way is a fear-based idea, it's a panic, paranoia-stricken idea. I feel like it's very popular because it connects with survival. And survival, not one of us doesn't get up in the morning with a sense of survival, whether it be the mortgage, the price of gas, how are we going to pay for college, or a loved one that's suffering from some ailment, we all are in a mode of survival. So I think we connect immediately with the idea of apocalyptic conditions. I just feel like it's being manifested more than it's being feared, oddly enough. So The Walking Dead's fear is holding on to what we once had. Let's not change our civilization, and yet we are. You know, what are the codes of morality? And those are being erased. Is it okay to sleep with my best friend's wife? Does it matter in an apocalypse? I think people rather have a sense of I'd like to try that, as opposed to I hope that never happens.
Mojo sees himself as misunderstood. He's put upon. He's mistreated. And all he wants is a chance to express himself. And he's being stopped by these 3 little girls who keep beating him up. And if you watch the series, when he finally gets a chance to rule the world, he's really good at it. He cleans up the world, he stops pollution, he gives everybody a free puppy. They all love him as a dictator. But he gets bored, so he goes back to being evil.